I am a believer who's in recovery and struggles with anger, control, codependency, fear, and grief. My name is Melody. I grew up in a loving home in Collinsville, Oklahoma, with my mom, my dad, and my one older brother. We were a normal family. I was happy until my 4th grade year when my parents started fighting and eventually got divorced. They couldn't get along anymore and were always fighting. I always felt like I was the reason my parents divorced because their fights revolved around my brother and me. As a child, my brother and I would fight and pick on each other. I would always say he started it so he would get in trouble. I would cry to get attention from my parents. After the divorce, my mom and I moved from living a country lifestyle to a city lifestyle, and my brother stayed with my dad. We moved into an apartment in Tulsa. It was a very different lifestyle from my house on 5 acres with neighbors not close by. My dad and my brother were not around. My family was pulled apart. My mom was always there for me. She always made sure I had what I needed. My mom was very strict, and I wouldn't let me do much. I have learned how now that she was very controlling. I love my mom so much for being protective of me, and I am who I am today because of her. After we moved to Tulsa, my parents tried to get back together when my grandma was dying of cancer, but it didn't work out. My grandma's death was very hard on me. We were very close. Eventually, my mom got remarried when I was in the 6th grade to my stepdad named Gary. He was 11 years older than my mom, and Gary had 5 older kids who all lived out of state. Gary treated me like a princess. He spoiled me and my mom. He would bring my mom flowers and bring me a flower too. Gary's nickname was Sugar Daddy. He would bring me gum and candy all the time. With Gary came a very sweet step-grandma, Miss Beulah, who loved and treated me like I was her blood granddaughter. Gram, or Ma, is what we called her. We were close. Gary died of pancreatic cancer 9 years ago at the age of 72, and Graham died 7 years ago at the age of 97. Eventually, my dad also got remarried. My relationship with my dad changed after he married Karen. My new stepmom was 15 years younger than my dad, and she had 3 children that were younger than me. I didn't want to go visit him as much. I didn't really like my stepmom, Karen. She always treated me differently than her children. I thought it was unfair. She treated me like a little kid and not a teenager. I felt like I was only there to watch her kids and not really spend time with my dad. She liked being the center of my dad's attention, and I resented her for this. Karen always over-exaggerated everything she said. She kicked my brother out of my dad's house when he turned 18. She accused my brother of stealing from them. I felt like she wanted his bedroom for her kids. My dad died of a massive heart attack 7 years ago at the age of 68. I never got to tell him goodbye. So I struggle with this to this day. I find it hard losing a parent at such a young age. I never really tried drugs. I saw how they affected my brother's life, and it was awful. As soon as I became old enough to work, I started working at Target and wanted to hang out with my friends. I remember trying to start over at a new school. I felt alone at my new school, and as I tried to make new friends, it was hard because they made fun of me because I wore glasses and clothing that was not name brand. I eventually made some new friends that I still talk to today. When I was 15, I went out with a new girl that just moved in from Guthrie. We were 15 years old and supposed to be at the mall and then a movie. Instead of the mall and the movie, we went to a party with some older kids from school. This would be my first time to experiment with alcohol and cigarettes. Before the night ended, I was drunk, and my mom and stepdad had to pick me up. My mom was very disappointed in me. The next day, my mom found a package of cigarettes in my jean jacket. She was going to make me eat them, but changed her mind, luckily, and flushed them down the toilet. I felt like I had let my mom down. She had taught me to do the right things, and I had let her down, trying to be one of the cool kids. With my first hangover came my punishment for this bout of experimentation. It was cleaning the entire house. And I mean carpet, tile, bathrooms, toilets, showers, and dusting. What I thought at that time were at least 1,000 steins and shot glasses collected by my stepdad. It worked. No more hangovers or cigarettes during my school years. I finished high school and my VOTEC training for cosmetology. After high school, I started working as a cosmetologist for my occupation. I hung out with my best friends from high school, and we would party nearly every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This would eventually lead me to meeting my husband of 22 years. I was 18, and Brian was 20 when we met. We dated for 5 years while Brian finished college, and I built up my business. We eventually moved into a rental house in the country for 6 months before we got married, in August of 1998. My mom did not like us living in sin. My husband and I went to Sperry First Baptist Church after we got married. We chose to spend time at the lake on Sundays because I work almost every Saturday at my salon. We would go occasionally, like holidays and weddings. We bought our first house in Tulsa in 2000. This was the beginning of the second chapter of my life. In 2001, I gave birth to my first son, Logan. I was so excited to be a mom. I always wanted kids. Our life changed being parents, but changed for the better. Logan was always sick with ear infections and was a cranky baby. Brian worked out of state when Logan was 2 years old. I struggled to run the household, work, and take care of Logan by myself. My mom and stepdad helped me out in the evenings, and Brian eventually got a different job and didn't have to travel. When Logan was 5, I gave birth to our second son, Luke. I was excited to have another baby again. Luke was a happy baby and was hardly ever sick. For the next 11 years, my life was normal. This is when my journey with Celebrate Recovery began. The insanity in my life had become unmanageable. At the age of 16, my oldest son, Logan, started doing drugs, skipping school, and fighting with my husband and me constantly. He lied to us all the time about where he was and what he was doing. This made me angry, and I felt like I couldn't trust him. He was arrested one night when he was 16 years old for stealing a truck. He went to the Tulsa Juvenile Detention Center, where we made him stay for over 15 hours. I felt like a horrible parent. What was I not doing right? At 16, he was being charged with a felony, so we got him an attorney. Luckily, there was no damage to the truck, so he was on probation till he was 18. He had to write an apology letter to the owners of the truck. Logan did community service at Muddy Paws and Nightlife. He promised to be better, but he continued to lie. We wanted to get him help, but he persuaded us not to send him anywhere. My lowest point in my life was when my husband lied to me to cover for Logan, so I wouldn't yell at him. I can't stand a liar more than anything. I even thought about leaving Brian and taking Luke to get away from all the chaos in our house. Things only got worse for us. Brian and I were constantly fighting and yelling all the time. Our once loving and caring family was being wrecked right before our own eyes. I was hurt and ashamed because I felt like I wasn't being a good parent. My son turned to using and selling drugs. In July of 2018, our house was broken into. We believe it was because of Logan owed money or something. It seemed as if they were looking for something. A few days later, our older son ran away on his brother's 12th birthday. I had found some things out about him and confronted him, so he took off. Logan was gone for 2 weeks when he finally contacted us and asked if he could come back home. This was 2 days before our 20th anniversary trip out of the country. We postponed our trip and visited Teen Challenge. On August 3rd, 2018, we sent him to Teen Challenge in Morrow, Arkansas, a place for troubled teenage boys. This was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I remember when we got to the ranch, he got out of the car and said, "I hate you, and I will never talk to you again." And he took off running. I never got to say bye to him. I felt like I had betrayed him. I got into recovery because Logan's counselor at Teen Challenge recommended we started attending Celebrate Recovery to help our family. And for Logan, when he came home for visits, we started attending Southern Hills Celebrate Recovery in September of 2018. I needed to be at CR. Once I experienced CR, it made sense why we needed to be here. The worship moved my heart. Hearing other testimonies at CR gave me hope for my family. I was scared, though. In small groups, some of the women never really heard from a parent's perspective. When they shared, it gave me hope for my son. CR has made me realize other people are struggling just like me. Not everyone's life is perfect, and I am not alone. We got to see our son every other month and talk to him on Sundays. We had training and counseling sessions to help us prepare for him coming home. Logan received awards and got baptized while he was there. After 8 months, he completed the program on his 18th birthday, April 5th, 2019. I was proud of the young man he had become. He was a different person, honest. I started my first step study in November of 2018 and finished in September of 2019. I met some wonderful ladies in my step study. Before Celebrate Recovery, my relationship with God wasn't good. My new relationship with Jesus Christ has made me a better person. I have learned that God forgives you for your sins and mistakes. My walk with God has changed because I know God has got my back now. He will never leave me or forsake me. Deuteronomy 31:6 says, "Be courageous, do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." After returning home, he got a job and was doing good. But 6 weeks later, he started up his old lifestyle. He snuck out after we went to bed. He broke our rules. We were taught to follow through with what we said. So Brian asked him to leave our house, and he moved out. A few months later, Logan lost his job and asked to come back home again. He said he was at his lowest point in his life. My husband helped him get a good job with one of his customers, and Logan bought himself a newer car last December. Logan started another downward spiral with his addiction and moved out again in mid-February. He was in a horrible car accident on Leap Day this past February. Logan totaled his car by flipping it over and landing it in a ditch upside down. He was in the hospital for 3 days. I was mad at him for driving recklessly. During this time, my mother-in-law was fighting liver cancer. She lost her battle on April 15th of this year. 2 days later, Logan was arrested. Since the accident, Logan has been in Rogers County Jail. It is painful knowing your son is in jail because of his bad choices. It's his actions, his consequences, and I can't change anything that he's done. I was sad and worried about his future. In my step study, I learned I cannot control what other people say or do. Step 3 touched my heart the most. It says, we made a decision to turn our lives and our wills over to the care of God. It's not my fault my son made bad decisions with his life. For a long time, my life was in step 1, denial. My attitude towards others was that I was doing fine, but deep down, I was hurting inside. I was in denial about my faith, my son, and my hurt. I was so ashamed. God's grace has given me the courage I need to face my denial. I am here for one reason, because God was calling for me. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through him who gives me strength. I have turned to my faith in God, my family, and my friends at Celebrate Recovery to lead me through these tough times. Now I can't wait to attend Celebrate Recovery on Friday nights and church on Sunday mornings. I feel better about myself and not ashamed of my life. God has made my relationship stronger with my husband and my younger son. I have made friends and gained some new hair clients from Celebrate Recovery. The old issues of denial, trust, and anger are gone now. I read a daily devotional every morning. I listen to 94.1 KXOJ, now in the car, and not secular music. I take a walk or ride my Peloton to relieve my stress. The 3 areas of recovery I am thankful for are my restored faith, relationships, and my knowledge I've gained. God has placed wonderful accountability partners in my life, Elena, Lynn, and Joy, for which I am grateful. I am thankful for my small group, step study, and large group. I feel closer to God now, and I feel more at peace now. You can't keep it unless you give it away. Jesus Christ has turned my weakness into strengths that I can use to help others. Some ways to pick up the Lord's towel is to start volunteering and becoming a leader. I have attended all of the CR leadership classes and will soon be a leader. To the newcomer, keep coming back every Friday night. I know it made me feel better about myself. I remember being scared to come, but after a couple nights, I felt at home. I love the worship music, testimonies, and teaching lessons. I have talked to my clients, friends, and family about Celebrate Recovery. Some people have even asked me why I still attend. I tell them everyone has hurts, habits, or hang-ups. We are all a work in progress. My favorite Bible verse is Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." Thank you for your time and keep coming back.